Good evening, classmates, especially to you, Mom Elsa. So, we are the second group to report this evening. And before we proceed to our report, just a reminder that after our report, we will be having a quiz. So, please listen carefully so that you can answer to our quiz. And don't worry, guys, our quiz is simple as long as you listen to our report. The link to our quiz will be posted later. So, without further ado, let's begin with our topic. And by the way, my name is Rochelle Roque. So, this evening, we will be talking about one of the social work helping models and approaches. This model that we will be talking about is very useful, especially when a social worker faces the client's problem situation. So, this model is none other the problem solving model. The main proponent of the problem solving model in social work is Helen Harris Perlman. She was able to come up with this idea as she was inspired by John Dewey. Although many individuals and theories influenced her, but only John Dewey spurred her interest in the matter of how people think and manage to cope. And yes, she adopted John Dewey's term problem solving as the name for a different concept of social work practice. According to Helen, the problem solving model is again, it is how people think and manage to cope. The focus of treatment is on helping the person go through the scientific problem solving process so that he will act and resolve his or her problem with only minimum help. As for the experience of problem solving of the individual, the client may absorb and transfer the learning to other problems as he or she may encounter in the future, even when the social worker is no longer there for the client. So, within the problem solving model, it has elements of the problem solving approach and the problem solving process. And this will be discussed further by my lovely groupmates.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm going to discuss the elements of the problem solving approach. In elements of the problem solving approach, Perlman said that the person is beset by a problem will seek help from a place, either a social agency or other institution. Social worker will offer help and use the process that focuses on enhancing the own problem-solving function of an individual and provide the person's own problem-solving resources. First element is the person. The person is considered as a product of inherited and constitutional makeup in constant interaction with powerful people and forces in life experiences. The person is a product of the past but not in the sense that it is viewed as a finished product. This element view of the personality as an open system continuously responsive to input and feedback from outside itself. So the second element is the problem. This approach is based on the presence of identification between the help seeker and the helper of a problem, for which assistance is requested or offered. The problem is simply a problem in the help seeker's current life circumstance that bother or harms the latter in some way. Partialization and concentration are two other significant aspects of the problem to consider. A component of what can feel like overwhelming situation appears to be less scary to the person who is dealing with it. It appears to be more manageable.
Good day, everyone. I am Joyce Delapo, and the topic that I have to discuss for today is the place and the process in the elements of problem solving approach. The place. This model takes into consideration the place which utilizes casework as a mode of helping people with the problems. This means the particular organizations, agencies, or other social institutions, the purposes of which defines its function, services, and its areas of social concern. The place is very important in the problem solving approach, especially in the organizations, agencies, or social institution, because if you want to solve some specific issues or problem, you should choose a safe place. For example, if you share some problems with a social worker, you should do it somewhere private to keep your information safe and confidential. And in that case, you will able to solve your problem because the social worker can give you services where they can solve your problem. And also, knowing where to go if you have some problems you want to solve is very important. An example for that is if you know some children who are being abused by their families, you can go to a place where you should report. Then, for example, the social institution, just like the DSWD. And the other elements of problem solving approach is the process. The process is something like a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. And the most important part of process is first the study, which you should define what is the problem and determining what is the cause of the problem. Second is the diagnosis, where in this part is the identification of nature of illness and or problems by examining the client. And the last is the treatment. In this part, the social worker should decide solutions that can solve the client's problems or illness. The problem solving process consists the following operations. First is the problem must be identified. You must identify the name, the problem of the client. Third is the cause and effects of the problem. It is very important and influence upon the person's life space must be identified and examined. The cause and effect of the operation is very important to solve the the problem easily. Fourth is the search for possible solutions. The search for possible means and modes of the solution must be initiated and considered. For example, list all the possible solutions and don't worry about the qualities of the solution at this stage because that is the very important in the next step. Fifth is some choice or decision must be made as a result of thinking and feeling through, which means some mostly like to affect the problem of the person's relation to it. For example, specify who will take the action, how and when the solution will be implemented.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Claire August, and I will continue the discussion in the elements of the problem solving approach. There are two factors important in the problem solving approach. These two are relationship and involvement of significant others. These two factors will determine the outcome of the caseworker problem solving efforts. And for Perlman, she used relationship to indicate all relationship between the caseworker and client. She also stated that whatever is the problem, the helping relationship should include the concern, acceptance, and expectation, as well as understanding and know-how social sanction. And next there are three problem solving means: the motivation, capacity, and opportunity. In the central assumption of this model, if there is absent among the three means, it would affect the person's capacity to cope with the problem independently.
Hello everyone, I am Irafe M. Ceballos and the topic that was assigned to me is the problem solving process. So what is problem solving process? A social worker helps an individual, group, or community identify problems.
prioritize identified problems based on urgency and need. For example, the social worker together with the individual, group, or community formulate action plan that is leading to the resolution of the problem. As always, action plan must be guided and should be SMART, meaning and S start for specific, M measurable, A achievable, R realistic, and T time bounded. After the finalization of the plan, the individual group agrees when to start the implementation of the plan. After the finalization of the plan, the individual group or community agrees when to start the implementation of the plan. In a given time, the worker and the client will then evaluate whether the problem has been resolved based on the set action plan and objectives. Also, as it is a process, it has steps to undertake such as the following. First, the contact phase, engagement. In the contact phase, the social worker and the client's first interaction or engagement. When we say engagement, it talks about the client's initial step to actively participate in the problem-solving process. Second, we have letter A, the problem identification. When we say problem identification, it is finding out the root cause of the problem. It is basic that the social worker actively listens to the client's discussions and sharing to get the trust of the client and determine the factors that has brought them into that certain condition. Third, we have the letter B, the goal identification. It is the process of identifying or determining conditions or state that you want to accomplish to resolve the problem, establishing measurable goals and time frames. Also, articulate the problem in a way that both social worker and client understand. Fourth, we have the letter C, the preliminary contact / emergence of commitment. It is all about the agreement and commitment of both the social worker and the client in the resolution of the problem. This stage shall be emphasized that in the resolution of the problem, the client plays an important role together with the social worker. Kaya dili lang ang social worker ang mulihok sa problem, kundi ang cooperation pod sa client. Lastly is the letter D, exploration and investigation. In exploration, it encourages the clients to share thoughts, feelings, and experiences about the issue or concerns or the problem that led to the contact. In the investigation, it's more on interviewing and data gathering, though this provision of an appropriate intervention would depend and contribute to the favorable resolution of the problem or the case. At this point, I will end now my report, and the next reporter will continue the next steps of the process. And that's all, and thank you for listening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Jacobo. I'm the next reporter of this group. So today we're gonna be tackle about the contract phase. So what is the contract phase? Contract phase is the base of assessments of the conjunctions with the clients. During the contracting phase of the social work practice, you attempt to define clearly the issues and goals of the social work and development plans, likely to resolve the identify issues and achieve the final goals. Dapat doon natin natin alaman ang mga issues sa isang client para madali natin matulungan natin sila kung paano ito gawin. Yan ang contract based. So contract based have three steps, which is the assessments and evaluations. Second, the formulations of a plans of actions. Third is the prognosis. What is the assessments and evaluation? So during this phase, the social workers have gathered the information of the clients and sometimes for other people close of the client. Ito daw ay nag-gather ng information ang isang social work para malaman nila kung ano talaga ang pulot-dulo issues ng isang client para matulungan kaagad nila, like sa kanyang family, friends, or neighbors. Ayan ang assessments and evaluations. Second is the formulations of plans of actions. It describes the way your groups will use its strategies to meet of it on strategies objectives. An actions plan consists of numbers of action steps or change to be brought of your community. Ito ay gumawa sila ng action para malaman nila kung paano ito gawin sa pamagitan ng kanyang pagtutulungan for the community. Third is the prognosis. Prognosis is about making the uneducated guess about the expected outcome of any kinds of health treatments, including the mental health. For example, the medications conditions.
So, hi everyone, I am Gia and now I am going to continue the discussion. Third is action phase. Performing the set plans and goals. So, action phase is where the social worker and the client works together and execute the plan to resolve the problems by achieving the set goals. In this process, the social worker must employ both empathic and action phase expressive talents that will help the clients in solving his or her problems. Last, evaluation and termination. This is where the closing of services happens. When the plan has been completed, the goals have been fulfilled, and the social worker noticed that the goals they imposed are successful, termination of services will follow. So, when to terminate a service? Here are the three instances. First, when the goals set by social worker and the client have been reached. Second, when after a reasonable period of time, there has been a very little movement toward the attainment of the goals formulated, and the prospect for any change in the situation is held unlikely. Last, when the client thinks that the worker has provided sufficient help so that it is now possible for the client to pursue problem solving on his own. That's all. Thank you.